Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaimudire. Ashtaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Okay, chapter 13, canto 5, chapter 13. Further talks between King Rahu, Gana and Jadabharat. Okay, so two chapters, 13 and 14. These will end this discussion. Um, so 13 is an allegory. Allegory means that hmm, so some explanation is given with some comparisons. Like so, this material world is compared to a great forest. Then there are in the forest there are plunderers. Then there are carnivorous animals. Hmm. And now all of these are allegory, meaning plunderers. This great forest is the material world. Plunderers are the six senses. Carnivorous animals like jackals, wolves, lions are like wife, children, relatives. Wife means whatever, right? Family. So like this, there is a comparison. Now when we read the purport in the purport actually Prabhupada explains the allegory. But also in the next chapter, actually, Jadabharat explains the allegory because the Rahugana asks, saying that I'm not able to understand whatever you're saying because I'm, I'm not pure enough to understand your instruction. So kindly explain. So what we will do is we will read possibly these thinking or whether should we just go to the next chapter and okay, we will read the verses in this chapter, chapter 13, just to understand what the comparisons are, and then next chapter we will understand the answers or what the explanation is. Brahmana uvacha duratyaye dhvanyajaya niveshito rajastamas sattva vibhakta karma drik esha sarthortha para paribrahman bhavat bhavatavim yati na sharma vindati. Jadabharat, who had fully realized Brahman, continued, my dear King Rahugana, the living entity wanders on the path of the material world, which is very difficult for him to traverse, and he accepts repeated birth and death. Being captivated by the material world under the influence of the three modes of material nature, the living entity can see only the three fruits of activities under the spell of material nature, and these fruits are auspicious, inauspicious, and mixed. He thus becomes attached to religion, dharma, artha, kama, and the monistic theory of moksha, merging with the supreme. He works very hard day and night, exactly like a merchant who enters a forest to acquire some articles to sell later for profit. And so this is the allegory. So he works very hard day and night, exactly like a merchant who enters a forest to acquire articles to sell later for profit. However, he cannot really achieve happiness within this material world. One can very easily understand how difficult and insurmountable the path of sense gratification is. Prabhupada is saying one can very easily understand how difficult the path of sense gratification is. Not knowing what the path of sense gratification is, one becomes implicated in the repetition of birth and accepts different types of bodies again and again. So, what does this mean? What is the meaning of this statement? Why Prabhupada is saying it's difficult and why is it insurmountable? Anybody? Why is this path of sense gratification difficult?
Pranam Prabhuji, because a lot of time and energy is wasted in
Yeah,
pursuing the
so much
things.
of difficult. Yes, so we have to go work so hard, just to just for little sense gratification. People have to struggle so much. So much of effort has to go. And after all that, only some enjoyment, so-called enjoyment, will come. So it's very difficult. And it's insurmountable, meaning you can't win over it. Meaning once a person gets onto the path of sense gratification, he can't come out of it. It becomes very difficult. Hmm. Not knowing what the path of sense gratification is, one becomes implicated. Now, when we engage in activities for sense gratification, then there is papa and punya, happiness and suffering, and there's repetition of birth. And one has to accept bodies again and again just for enjoying or suffering. Nice. So Prabhupada is saying thus one suffers in material existence. In this life, one may think that he's very happy being an American, Indian, etc. But in the next life, one has to accept another body. Next body has to be immediately accepted according to karma. One will be forced to accept a certain type of body, and protesting will not help. Uh, that is a stringent law of nature. Due to the living entity's ignorance of his eternal blissful life, hmm, he becomes attracted to material activities under the spell of Maya. So, without realizing that this attraction to material activities is actually the cause of suffering in this material existence, we become attached. In this world, he can never experience happiness, yet he works very hard to do so. It's called Maya. So everybody in this material world, they work very hard for happiness, but you can really not experience happiness. Very little. That too illusory happiness. Not real happiness, because that happiness is connected with the body and is temporary. So, mm, path of material world is very difficult to traverse. Once we get onto it and we get into this cycle, getting out of it is very, very difficult. Very difficult. Mm. It's difficult, but also it's easy. It's difficult unless one comes to the path of devotion. It's difficult. Because just by jnana, just by yoga, just by karma, we cannot actually get out of this material world. It's very difficult. Mm. But once when we come to the path of bhakti is very, very easy. Very easy and very, very blissfully performed. Then one can win over repeated birth and death. But all jivas are captivated by material world and they're running behind fruits of their action, which are auspicious, inauspicious, and mixed. Though they don't want inauspicious and mixed results, but because they don't know, or they're forced to act in such way, such that they do actions and they have to suffer. And then they become attached to dharmartha kama and monistic moksha, sayujya. For this, he works very hard then. यस्यामिमे षण् नरदेवदस्यवः सार्थं विलुम्पन्ति कुनायकं बलात् गोमायवो यत्र हरन्ति सार्थिकं प्रमत्तमाविश्य यतोर्हणं वृकाः. In this forest of material existence, so in the last verse, he compared the jiva, human being, to one who goes to the merchant who goes to the forest. In this forest of material existence, there are six very powerful plunderers. When the conditioned soul enters the forest to acquire some material gain, the six plunderers misguide him. Thus, the conditioned merchant does not know how to spend his money, and it is taken away by these plunderers. Like tigers, jackals, and other ferocious animals in a forest that are ready to take away a lamb from the custody of its protector. The wife, children enter the heart of the merchant and plunder him in so many ways. So, forest of material existence is this material world, our mm, family life, and there are six very powerful plunderers. So, the conditioned soul, the merchant enters the forest to acquire material gain. But what happens? That gain is taken away by these plunderers. Who are these plunderers? In the forest, there are many plunderers, dacoits, jackals, tigers. The jackals are compared to one's wife and children. In the dead of night, jackals cry very loudly, and similarly, one's wives and children in this material world also cry like jackals. And like I said, just think of this as family. It shouldn't become like, oh, men start thinking, oh, no, no, my wife is a jackal, my children are jackals. No, it's just family life. The children say, Father, this is wanted, give me this, I'm your dear son. The wife says, I'm your dear wife, please give me this is now needed. In this way, one is plundered by the thieves in the forest. Not knowing the aim of human life, one is constantly being misguided. The aim of life is Vishnu. Everyone works very hard to earn money, but no one knows that his real self interest is in serving the Supreme Lord. Instead of spending money for advancing the Krishna consciousness movement, one spends his hard earned money on clubs, brothels, liquor, slaughterhouses, and so forth. Or whatever. Now we can add in our generation, we can add malls, eating outside, movies, shopping. Okay, some are sinful, some are more sinful, some are less sinful. Due to sinful activities, one becomes implicated in the process of transmigration and thus has to accept one body after another. Being thus absorbed in a distress condition, one never attains happiness. So, family life is the source of this illusion, being misguided, because they don't know the aim of life. Family people don't know that the real self-interest is in serving the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada is summarizing this whole situation. Instead of spending money for advancing the Krishna consciousness movement, one spends his hard-earned money on all these things. Actually, this is very true. It's not that people don't have money, but people don't want to use their money for Krishna. Mm. We've seen, many of you are very generously uh, uh, contributing to advance, to help our preaching, running preaching centers, etc. But there are many who have money, but they don't part with it at all. They don't give. They don't give even 1 rupee. They don't give. So, what is the use? Prabhupada is saying that hard-earned money has to be used to advance the Krishna consciousness movement. And it's actually very ironic. Uh, so, who has given this money to us? I'm asking this
Uh,
question so that everybody thinks about this. Who is giving this
Krishna.
money to us?
Krishna has
Krishna,
given.
bro,
Krishna has given money. Why has Krishna given this money to us? What
to
are we supposed to
utilize
do with it?
to utilize in his service.
Yeah, to utilize in service, of course. Then there is also our responsibility, which is to take care of our family. So we take care of the family, take care of the needs of the family, and then also alongside, also utilize the money for his service. Actually, taking care of the devotee family is also his service. And then, but there is also direct service required, right? So one. is supposed to use his hard-earned money for Prabhupada directly saying advancing the Krishna consciousness movement. So for preaching, for running centers, etc., temples. Now, there are some devotees, they have money. When we ask, saying that, okay, we have some requirement, what they say? They say, no, I don't have, I can't, I mean, I don't have any spare money. Spare money means that I don't have anything now available to give you. Okay, so what is the meaning? What is the meaning of that? That doesn't mean that he doesn't have money. Of course, some devotees don't have money, which is okay, which is understandable, and that's a different situation. But this is about those who have money, and they say, I don't have money to give. Means I don't have money to give you because there is no gain. I don't have any gain. I put my money, I've invested my money here. I put my money here, there, where I'm getting so much return. And we understand this. Uh, so then what we have to tell devotees? Saying that you please go, give money, we'll give you some interest. See, what situation? For us to run Krishna consciousness movement, sometimes we have to ask devotees and tell them we will give you interest. The money which has been given by Krishna is now being kept by this person and taking interest to give it to him only. This is the fallen state. This is our fallen state. Hmm. We don't actually, that is why, we don't understand really what spiritual life is. Spiritual life means completely being under the shelter of Krishna. And Krishna will take care of everything. We need to have that faith and do whatever is required, in Krishna's service. We should not become calculative. Mm. We should not think about gain. Oh, I have this 5 lakh rupees. I've kept it in this FD, which is giving me, or whatever, some investment which is giving me this percent, that percent. Now, okay, Prabhu is asking for money. So if I give this money, then I will lose that interest. And then not only that, somebody would say, okay, outside, I'm keeping it for 8%. Maybe I should give it to temple and take 10%. Unfortunately, this is what happens. This is what happens. And anyway, for people, who are running temple center, sometimes money is required, and yeah, you might end up taking money from somebody just and also even give them interest. So much business is being done. Of course, because we can't run anything without having money, right? So, but it's so clear. Prabhupada is just saying, you earn money, and then there are plunderers at home. Family is plundering money, wasting money, right? Instead of that, money should be used for whatever necessities, and then rest of it has to be used for Krishna. So clear. Mm. So at least my request is, devotees who are doing Shravanam here, at least please don't do business with Krishna. Okay, if you don't want to give, don't give. But don't give and take interest. Mm. Not giving itself is not good. But giving and taking interest on that money is like worst thing to do. Please don't ever do that. Mm. Anyway, we don't have happiness. We'll never get happiness if we do things like do business with Krishna. Prabhuta virut trinagul magafare kathora damsher masyakair upadrutah क्वचित्तु गन्धर्वपुरं प्रपश्यति क्वचित् चाशु चयो rayolmukhagraham. In this forest there are dense bowers compared composed of thickets of bushes, grass and creepers. Bowers means like covered areas of all these bushes, grass, creepers in the forest. In these bowers, the conditioned soul is always disturbed by cruelly biting mosquitoes. Envious people. Sometimes he sees an imaginary place in the forest, and sometimes he is bewildered by seeing a fleeting fiend or ghost, which appears like a meteor in the sky. So, complete allegory. Hmm. The material household is actually a whole of fruitive activity. To earn livelihood, one engages in different industries and trades, and sometimes one performs great sacrifices to go to higher planetary systems. Apart from this, at least everyone is engaged in earning a livelihood in some profession or occupation. In these dealings, one has to meet many undesirable people, envious people, and their behavior is compared to biting of mosquitoes. Envious people. Hmm. This creates very undesirable conditions. Even in the midst of these disturbances, one imagines that he is going to construct a grand house and live there permanently, meaning trying to settle down in this material world. Although he knows that he cannot. Gold is compared to a quickly fleeting fiend. Fiend means enemy, right? Or friend. What is fiend? Ah, evil spirit or demon. Yeah, like a ghost, which appears like a meteor in the sky. So gold just comes and goes. It displays itself for a moment and is then gone. Generally, karmis are attracted to gold or money, but these are compared herein to ghosts and witches. That's all right. Envious people, hoarding money, hoarding gold, but it just vanishes. My dear king, the merchant on the forest path of the material world, his intelligence victimized by home, wealth, relatives, and so forth. Yeah, our intelligence is victimized. We become a victim. Hmm. Meaning we've come under the influence of these things home, family, relatives, society, etc. He runs from one place to another in search of success because he needs money. He needs success to be in the society. Sometimes his eyes are covered by the dust of whirlwind. That is to say, in his lust, he is captivated by the beauty of his wife, especially during her menstrual period. Thus, his eyes are blinded and he cannot see where to go or what he is doing. That the household attraction resides in the wife because sex is the center of household life. Yan maitunadi gramedi sukam hi tucham. Tucham. Low class. A materialistic person making his wife the center of attraction works very hard day and night. His only enjoyment in material life is sexual intercourse. Therefore, karmis are attracted to women as friends or wives. Friends or wives, meaning sometimes not married friends, sometimes wives. Hmm. Indeed, they cannot work without sex. Under the circumstances, the wife is compared to a whirlwind, especially during her menstrual period. Those who strictly follow the rules and regulations of householder life, please note those who are in that stage of life, those who strictly follow the rules and regulations of householder life engage in sex only once a month at the end of the menstrual period because that is the most productive time, not other times. Mm, mm. As one looks forward to this opportunity, he is either overwhelmed by the beauty of his wife. Thus, it is said that the whirlwind covers the eyes with dust. Such a lusty person does not know that all his material activities are being observed by different demigods, especially the sun god, and are being recorded for karma of one's next body, like Diti did, right, at an inauspicious time. Astrological calculations are called Jyotish Shastra because the Jyoti or effulgence in the material world comes from different stars and planets. The science is called Jyoti Shastra, science of the luminaries. By calculations of Jyoti, our future is indicated. In other words, all the luminaries witness the activities of the conditioned soul. Thus, he is awarded a particular type of body. A lusty person whose eyes are covered by the dust of the whirlwind of material existence does not at all consider that his activities are being observed by different stars and planets and are being recorded. Not knowing this, the conditioned soul commits all kinds of sinful activities for the satisfaction of his lusty desire. Mm. So here, so this whole thing is around family life, and Prabhupada is saying center of family life is this sexual in life, right? Uh, s- uh, Only enjoyment in material life is sexual intercourse. So eyes are blinded, and he cannot see where to go or what he is doing. Blinded completely. This is moha, illusion. Just family life. What is the goal of just people can't, many people, unfortunately, they can't just think beyond family life. Mm. So family life is all in all. Wandering in the forest of material world, the conditioned soul sometimes hears an invisible cricket making harsh sounds. Hmm. So who is this invisible cricket? We'll know here. And his ears become very much aggrieved. Sometimes his heart is pained by the sound of owls, which is just like the harsh words of his enemies. Hmm. Sometimes he takes shelter of a tree that has no fruits or flowers. He approaches such a tree due to his strong appetite and thus he suffers. He would like to acquire water but is simply illusioned by a mirage and he runs after it. Such a miserable life. Look at this. Hmm. It said that the Bhagavata philosophy is meant for people who are completely free from envy. Paramonidmatsaranam. The material world is full of envious people. Even within one's inner circle, there is much backbiting. This is compared to the sound vibration of a cricket. So first there is backbiting. Then there is harsh words of enemies. When one takes to Krishna consciousness, one always hears unpalatable words from relatives. This is the nature of the world. One cannot avoid mental distress due to the backbiting of envious people. Being very much aggrieved, sometimes one goes to a sinful person for help. But he has no means to help because he has no intelligence. Thus the living entity is disappointed. This is like running after a mirage in the desert in an effort to find water, going to sinful people for help. Such activities do not produce any tangible results due to being directed by the illusory energy. Conditioned soul suffers in so many ways. So there's backbiting, there's harsh words of people, then he's in difficulty, so he goes to some sinful person for help, which is all useless. Sometimes the conditioned soul jumps into a shallow water or being short of food grains, he goes to beg food from people who are not at all charitable. Sometimes he suffers from the burning heat of household life, which is like a forest fire. And sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by the kings in the name of heavy income taxes. When one is hot due to scorching sun, one sometimes jumps into a river to gain relief. However, if the river is almost dried up and the water is too shallow, one may break his bones by jumping in. The conditioned soul is always experiencing miserable conditions. Sometimes his efforts to get help from friends are exactly like jumping into a dry river. By such actions, he does not derive any benefit. He only breaks his bones. Sometimes suffering from a shortage of food, one may go to a person who is neither able to give charity nor willing to do so. Sometimes one is stationed in household life which is compared to a forest fire. When a man is heavily taxed by the government, he becomes very sad. Heavy taxation obliges one to hide his income. But despite this endeavor, the government agents are often so vigilant and strong that they take all the money anyway, and the conditioned soul becomes very aggrieved. Thus, people are trying to become happy within the material world, but this is like trying to be happy in a forest fire. No one need to go to a forest to set it ablaze. Fire takes place automatically. Similarly, no one wants to be unhappy in family life or worldly life, but by the laws of nature, unhappiness and distress are forced upon everyone. To become dependent on another's maintenance is very degrading. To become dependent on another's maintenance is very degrading. Therefore, according to Vedic system, everyone should live independently. Only Shudras are unable to live independently, so only they can depend on others. But other higher Varnas have to live independently. Brahmanas live independently, they don't take salary. Kshatriyas, Vaishyas. Only Shudras, they are obliged to serve someone for maintenance. It is said, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. In the age of Kali, everyone is dependent on another's mercy for maintenance of the body. Therefore, everyone is classified as a Shudra. The 12th canto of Bhagavatam said that in Kali Yuga, the government will levy taxes without reciprocally benefiting the citizens. In this age, there will also be shortage of rain, therefore scarcity of food will arise and citizens will be very much harassed by government taxation. In this way, the citizens will abandon their attempts to lead a peaceful life and will leave their homes and hearths and go to the forest in sheer disappointment. This is toward the end of Kali Yuga. But we are experiencing all this, right? Not we are not able to get help from people. We dependent sometimes. Some people are dependent on the others. Then some people suffer in the burning heat of household life. Then Taxation, all these things are going on. Sometimes being defeated or plundered by a superior powerful agent, a living entity loses all his possessions. Could be anybody. He then becomes very morose and lamenting their loss. He sometimes becomes unconscious. Sometimes imagines a great palatial city in which he desires to live happily with his family members and riches. He thinks himself fully satisfied if this is possible, but such so-called happiness continues only for a moment. The word Gandharvapuram is very significant. Sometimes in the forest a very big castle appears, and is called a castle in the air. Actually, this castle does not exist anywhere but in one's imagination. It is called Gandharvapura. In the material forest, the conditioned soul sometimes contemplates great castles and skyscrapers, which is like house, nice house, this, that, and all that. And he wastes his energy for such things, hoping to live in them very peacefully with his family forever. Right? I'll have a nice house, I'll have a car, then I will be very happy with my family. I live peacefully with family forever. However, the laws of nature do not allow this. Please note, when he enters such casuals, he temporarily thinks that he is very happy, even though his happiness is impermanent. His happiness may last for a few years, but because the owner of the castle has to leave the castle at the time of death, everything is eventually lost. This is the way of worldly transactions. Such happiness is described by Vidyapati as the happiness one derives upon seeing a drop of water in the forest. The desert is heated by scorching sunshine, and if we want to reduce the desert temperature, we need huge amounts of water, millions and millions of gallons. What effect will one drop have? Water certainly has value, but one drop of water cannot reduce the heat of the desert. In this material world, everyone is ambitious, but the heat is very scorching. What will an imaginary castle in the air do to help? So Srila Vidyapati is therefore sung. Tatha Tatala Saikate Vari Bindu Sama Sutamita Ramani Samaje. The happiness of family life, friends and society. So Prabhupada used to quote this very often. Friends, family, friends and love. Prabhupada used to say. Is compared to a drop of water in the scorching desert. The entire world is busy trying to attain happiness because happiness is the prerogative of the living entity. Unfortunately, due to falling in contact with material world, the living entity simply struggles for existence. Even if one becomes happy for a while, a very powerful enemy may plunder everything. There are many instances in which big businessmen suddenly become paupers in the street. Yet the nature of material existence is such that foolish people are attracted to these transactions and they forget the real business of self-realization. Sometimes the merchant in the forest wants to climb the hills and mountains, but due to insufficient footwear, his feet are pricked by small stone fragments and by thorns on the mountain. Being pricked by them, he becomes very aggrieved. Sometimes a person who is very attached to his family becomes overwhelmed with hunger, and due to his miserable condition, he becomes furious with his family members. Ambitious conditioned soul wants to be very happy in this material world with his family, but is compared to a traveler in the forest who desires to climb a hill full of thorns and small stones. That is family life. As stated in the previous verse, the happiness derived from society, friendship, and love is like a drop of water in the scorching heat in the desert. The heat of the desert. One may want to become very great and powerful in society, but this is like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur compares one's family to high mountains. Becoming happy in the association is like a hungry man's endeavoring to climb a mountain full of thorns. Almost 99.9% of the population is unhappy in family life, despite all the attempts being made to satisfy the family members. In the Western countries, due to the dissatisfaction of family members, there is actually no family life. There are many cases of divorce, and out of dissatisfaction, children leave protection of their parents. Especially in this age of Kali, family life is being reduced. Everyone is being self-centered because that is the law of nature. Even if one has sufficient money to maintain a family, the situation is that no one is happy in family life. Consequently, according to Varnashrama institution, one has to retire from family age in the middle age. Panchashordhvam vanam brajet. 50. Vanam brajet. One should go to the forest or Vrindavan. तत्साधुमन्ये असुरवर्यदैनां सदा समुद्विग्नधियाम सद्गृहात् हित्वात्मपातं गृहमन्दकूपम् Vanam gato yadharimashrayeta. There's no benefit in transferring from one forest to another. One must go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Govinda. That will make one happy. ISKCON is therefore constructing a Krishna Balram temple to invite its members as well as outsiders to come and live peacefully. Of course, now nowadays externally there's no peace in Vrindavan. Become like a big market. That will help one become elevated to the transcendental world and return home back to God. Another sentence in this verse is very significant. Kautumbika krudhyati vai janaya. When one's mind is disturbed in so many ways, he satisfies himself by becoming angry with people. Hmm. Not just poor wife. Nowadays, wives also become angry, husbands also become angry, children also become angry. Everybody becomes angry. The wife and children are naturally dependent on the father. Hmm. Not anymore. But the father, being unable to maintain the family properly, becomes mentally distressed and therefore chastises the family members unnecessarily. Hmm. Being disgusted with family life, one separates from the family by divorce or some other means. If one has to separate, why not separate willingly? Systematic separation is better than forced separation. Forced separation cannot make anyone happy. But by mutual consent or by Vedic arrangement, one must separate from his family affairs at a certain age. Not prematurely through divorce, but one must actually uh, from family affairs at a certain age and fully depend on Krishna, Vanaprastha. This makes one's life successful. So reality of material life is being described. The answer is Manam gato yadharemashrayata. Finally, we have to just take shelter of Krishna only. That will make us happy. We should realize this. Anyway, all these things are nice to hear because we might be in some illusion somewhere, trying to climb some hill, trying to build some castles in the air. So we can understand this. All this is not really required. Mm, to just focus on Krishna consciousness. That's the aim of human life. That's why, otherwise, uh, Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janiya Shunya Vishakhain. Simply waste our life. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. If anybody has any questions, comments, anyway, this is straightforward. Nothing much to discuss. But if anybody has any comments, you can please make.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Shastras are all, I mean, in these slokas, it is defined like men get distressed,
Yeah.
unable to maintain the family
Yeah.
life. So in
Yeah.
Shastras only, it is clearly evident. Maybe for
Correct.
that particular reason, women also started earning to have peaceful life financially. At least
But is there
financially, not
is
a
there
peaceful life
yeah,
in
is
other
there
matters.
peaceful life? Yeah, exactly. That's where I was
Uh,
coming to, saying that yeah,
at
okay, you
least,
got
at
money,
least
but
in
what happened to
financial
peace?
matters. At
Yeah.
least one in one if there is 10 problems uh, for not being in peace, one problem is reduced at
Oh
least.
yeah, one problem got reduced, but five more got added. That we are not seeing, right? What happened to the care, love that had to be shown to children? Where did that go? Which was all taken care. Now it became added as a new problem. It is more complicated than just dealing with the anger of husband, right? See, we should understand, right? See, we have to.
Going in, I mean, women are, since many of them are sensitive, they go into depression, na Prabhu, where men are very angry. I've seen my friends who are not working, and men are distressed, they come
Yeah, of
shout at
course. I mean,
them.
it's not that current time, age, everything is not ideal, right? But everything, see, that is the reason Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, is a solution for all problems, right? By practicing Krishna consciousness, one has to give up their anger, lose their anger, understand that everything is being taken by Krishna, everything is under his control. And we have to try and live a peaceful life as husband and wife. See, if Krishna conscious families are only not peaceful, what, what are we trying to teach to the world?
And also, I heard, Prabhu, in the kingdom of God, there is no scarcity. If
Of
one is
course.
properly following Krishna consciousness life, there is no scarcity for anything, na
Absolutely.
Prabhu.
Absolutely. Krishna
Neither
says,
money,
Yogakshemam
food.
Vahamyam. Krishna says, follow whatever I am saying, I will take care of you. But we should have faith for that, right? Should
Okay.
have faith for that.
So these sentences are only for people who are not properly following Krishna conscious life.
No,
Yeah, like
properly
I mean,
following means, see, Krishna wants, see, it's very simple to understand this. What does love of Krishna mean? What does it mean to love Krishna?
Love is love means there is no condition for love. I love
Okay,
so and
that
so
is one. But
person.
what does actually love means? What does love mean? So if I want to love Krishna, then I have to love his instructions. I have to love what he expects me to do. I also have to love his devotees.
And he's instructing in such a way that if you follow my instructions, there is no scarcity. Yoga
Fully you
Kshema
have to
Bhava.
follow. Fully.
Fully, okay.
Not like I like this instruction, so I'll follow. That is not convenient to me, so I won't follow. That will not help. It's a package deal, isn't it? When you love a person, when you say unconditional, what does that mean? Meaning I am not bringing my brain in the middle, right? I have to just follow whatever Krishna is saying. That is loving Krishna, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when we do that fully, yes, everything, every statement Krishna is making in the Shastra becomes true in our lives. And that starts with faith. You need to have faith in Krishna. Again, we'll go into the same. See, we should understand one thing, right? The only way to come out of this cycle, because whenever we get into the discussion, it's the same thing. We come and get stuck here only, saying that no, 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 but, no, 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 but, no, 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 but, no, no, but. So, which means that we don't have faith. Krishna is saying something, but we don't have faith to accept his instructions. See, unless somebody wants to go learn swimming, right? And they are saying, I will swim like this, I will do this, I will do that. Then, but unless you are put into water, how will you learn swimming? Uh, there can be an instructor who is just telling so many instructions, but unless you actually go in and start swimming, only then you will know, no, okay, instructor is telling, and okay, now his words are actually true because I am swimming, and then I figured saying that I see that whatever he's saying, I'm following, and yes, it is working. I'm able to float, I'm able to swim, I'm able to, even if I go deep in the water, I'm following his instructions. Only if you go into the water, only then can you know. So Krishna is saying all these instructions, but we want to just stand outside only and try to follow his instructions. Or just hear what he's saying and not really do anything about it. So only when we enter the waters uh, can we actually understand what Krishna is saying, isn't it? And we have to follow. Just give me a second. Somebody's ringing the bell. Just 1 second.